What's going on, everyone? It's Tucker, and welcome back to the channel. Really appreciate everybody being here and checking out all these videos. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, so you can be notified anytime that there's a new video. So for this episode, it's a little bit longer one, but a really, really good one. I had the opportunity to sit down with my buddy Adam England from Manzanita Insurance to talk about all things insurance and everything for another fun-filled episode of The Tuck Show. So without further ado, check it out. What's going on, man?
Good morning.
Welcome to the Tuck Show.
The Tuck Show.
I don't know. It's a work in progress. Yeah. I think it sounds good. It's a play in words. I'm doing a different kind of setup today because I wanted to look at your face, and some of the feedback is, not being able to hear me correctly. So
no, this is a good setup. You got a great facility for it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Rockstar Studios here. So you also have your podcast here. I wanted to plug that one. Backyard Astronomer.
We have done some recordings in here, and it's worked out great. We did a phone interview where we were able to hook in and interview someone remotely. So we've just, the technology that you guys have in here is really cool.
Thanks, man. You don't need to shamelessly plug. I appreciate it, though. That's good. I was like, listen, I know you well enough. No, I know what you, thank you. No, it's nice having the studio to be able to make videos for different kind of things. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff together, as we always do. And we could list off the many, many things that we are going to do together. But
we've got it's like a lot of different Venn diagrams.
It is.
There's a ton of intersecting and overlapping.
Right. Of just being like, hey, I'm helping you with this. You're helping me with this. Blah, 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 blah. But first and foremost, Mr. Adam England, Manzanita Insurance. Is it still? It's still Manzanita Insurance?
Oh, yes.
I was like, I'm letting you do the plug. Because I tell everybody, like, you are one of the smartest guys that I know. But it's one of the, I'm like, hey, he's my accountant, my insurance guy, my financial advisor, my friend. Like, hey, I'm going to talk to him about it. It'll just be like
pretty
a random subject that comes up. And I'm like, I'm going to ask. You're my astronomy guy?
Yes.
They're just like, hey, I've got a weird space question. I'm going to call Adam.
Hey, we need to hang a TV.
Right. You literally helped me hang. When I say helped me hang TV, you hung the TV. So yeah, no, it's always good. Still haven't had an electrician over to finish it. Like, keep on trying to get him over. It's fine though. I was like,
as long as it works.
Yeah. I have not given your information out of anybody. Every time I show a house, I was like, oh, I just hung the TV above my chimney. And it always comes up in conversation where people are like, where are we going to put the TV? And they have a fireplace. And I was like, well, I just did that. And they're like, oh, do you have a guy? And I'm like, well,
so I was a manager at the room store for many years. And so we would have a lot of people that were new to the area. And one of my coworkers had worked at Best Buy for over a decade. And so the two of us, when people would come in and they'd buy a whole new suite of furniture, new house, they'd say, hey, we need somebody to help hang our TVs. We had all the equipment, the professional knowledge to do it. And we would sub out doing things like that.
Right.
But now it's like I'm so busy with the other stuff that that's one I've taken off the plate.
Right. I was like, you would never.
But for a while, it was like a side gig.
Right. As your friend, I would never let you voluntarily start that up now as a side gig. I'm like, you've got enough other things going on.
I don't think my wife would like it.
Yeah. I was like, and she probably was like, going to help Tucker. Yeah, but I appreciate it. So I have you here today to discuss insurance.
Yeah.
For everybody watching this that is thinking of moving to this area, or already here. I don't want to disclude them.
No.
Insurance. You do, all sorts of insurance. We've had many conversations, but what does Manzanita Insurance do, and why is home insurance important?
Yeah, we're a full service brokerage, and we do essentially everything but health insurance. So we can help with personal auto and home, umbrella, toys, like the side-by-sides, the UTVs, the boats,
which are popular here.
Super popular. Half the time you'll see somebody that just drives their Polaris RZR around instead of their car. And then we also do business insurance. So you can get into the general liability, commercial auto, workers' comp, things like that. Now, a big one right now is cyber insurance in case you get hacked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can do all things like that. We do life insurance and annuities. So we have that side of the that starts to bridge in with my tax knowledge when you get into kind of tax planning and estate planning, those things. But specifically, one of the big areas we focus in is home, because this is our home. You and I grew up here.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's usually the biggest purchase that most families make for themselves. It may be a 30-year mortgage, but it's investment for themselves and their future that maybe turns into a rental at a later point. Maybe it becomes a second home. Maybe you're going to buy a second home. Maybe you're moving here and you wanted to buy a rental property. Another one that's real common right now is somebody buys a second home in Prescott, and when they're not using it, they're doing short-term rentals like Airbnb and VRBO.
Yeah, I mean, I just closed on one.
Yeah.
I've sold a few that people have kind of turned into Airbnbs and everything, and there is that, you don't really think about it at the, the first thing, like, hey, I'm going to get this, and you just make sure that they're in an area that allows for short-term rentals. But also the insurance there that, why that's so important. But, and multiple, every time somebody is getting a new home and why the insurance is important. And I guess we were kind of talking about it a little bit before. There's so many different demographic areas.
Yeah,
different types of
the geography here is very unique.
Yeah.
You've got Prescott Valley, Chino, Dewey. Just inherently, they all have very different risks and different building types. You go out to Prescott Valley, you're going to see a lot more of that cookie cutter home, and in the Granvilles, the Stone Ridges, and not that they're bad homes, but it's in a development that's very standard.
Right.
We can quickly categorize how that house was built in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Then you can go into areas of Chino that might have a ranch house that's 60 years old on 10 acres.
Okay.
Then you might go into Prescott and have a 120-year-old house
Right.
that's been updated 3 different times over the years, and you're trying to figure out what kind of electrical's in it.
Right. Was that updated? Was this updated? Yeah, because you'll get into a rock building kind of, that was from the 1900s.
Yeah. Very unique risks.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful properties. Like some of these homes are just stunning with what they've done to them over time.
Oh, yeah. No, they're great house, great location, because a lot of people want to be close to the downtown area. Mm-hmm. That's a big old factor. But we recently just did one which was just out in the forest.
Yeah.
And had different kind of risks that, giving you credit, you didn't include me on a lot of the heartache that you had to go through to get them insured. Just because of fire risk and everything like that.
Yeah, if I'm working on a house in Granville in Prescott Valley, I can usually get a quote, and I can get 10 or 15 quotes because I work as a broker. So I'm not fixated and dedicated to just one company. I'm not a franchise owner like a McDonald's.
Right, which
I'm
is
like
awesome.
the cafeteria.
Right.
So I've got
You're a food
dozens
court.
of
You're a
food court at the mall.
Right.
And I've got dozens of companies that I can shop with. So if you come to me with a address like that in Prescott Valley, in 10 minutes, I can have 15 quotes, narrow it down to the top 3, and whittle it down from there with a pretty good understanding, having grown up here like we both have, but also my dad was a general contractor.
Right.
My mom was in real estate. So I've grown up swinging a hammer and helping her with, PowerPoint presentations or whatever she's selling. And so I've grown up in the industry understanding I can look at an address. There's a chance I helped replace that roof when I was in high school
Right.
when we had a hailstorm.
Right.
So I'm very familiar with that. But then you do something like a cabin in the woods.
Right.
And maybe this is 4,000 square feet. It's a luxury cabin. We're not talking a shanty.
Right.
And we have some great areas like this that are beautiful in the trees. You might have a creek, but now you're 7.5 miles from a fire station.
Right. Which was a volunteer fire station.
It's a volunteer fire station.
Right.
And a lot of people don't even know that that's a difference.
Right.
That's not a quote you're going to get in 5 minutes online. You're going back and forth with underwriters. You're submitting documentation. I may have to call that fire station and get them to write me a letter saying how far they are from the property, how long it would take them to get there, both distance and time.
Right.
What their resources are if they're volunteer or if they're a combination with volunteer and hired full-time employees, what resources are available. Is there a water tank on the premises?
Yeah.
Is there a well house that they can connect into if there's not a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet? Like crazy things that people don't normally think about.
Yeah, and this
is what all goes into
No, and which is one of those awesome things because, as the real estate, and that was a luxury cabin.
Yeah.
That we did, that was built by the previous, the ones selling it were the ones that built it. So there's just all these factors that you go, and when you later on, you're like, hey, I got it. But it was a journey, which, and I think it's important knowing that about the Prescott area, that it's because, as a real estate agent, people, want to move here in a secondary house. They want to have that cabin.
Yeah. They don't want the
that's
one
out
size
there.
fits all. They want something that feels theirs, that feels unique.
Right. And one of the cool things, because you can be, in the forest and 10 minutes later you can be over at Watson Lake and the Red Rocks.
Yeah.
Or be, a little while longer, be to the prairie-esque, as I call it, Prescott Valley is more of kind of a prairie. So it's just a very different geography kind of, area, but there is the different liabilities that they have that. So
yeah, with that, you've got one thing that's big here is you'll hear wildland urban interface. And a lot of people who are new to the Prescott area have never heard that term before, but it's something you and I are very familiar with, because we do have a lot of areas that back up to the forest.
Yes.
You might be the last house on the last street, and behind you might be state land or federal land, or it might be a private ranch of 10,000 acres that's undeveloped. So you've got risks of, if there's a fire and there's 40-mile-an-hour winds,
Whereas
it's going to be in your backyard quickly.
Very quickly.
And some of our communities and developments have gotten FireWise certifications. So we have a very clear list of who has earned that certification, and that can be a heavy discount or the difference between approved or not approved on a home insurance quote from a certain carrier.
It's just so crazy, the different types of things. And that's one of the big ones that, one of the last ones that we worked, and that was a big, $1 million property out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So
but
it
they
is
had
a
done
factor.
a good job of keeping the property clean of excess brush.
Right.
It's okay to have beautiful pine trees, but you've got to clean up some of the brush, because if one tree does catch on fire, how quickly would it jump to the next tree?
Right.
And so if those trees are spaced apart and you don't have a ton of the scrub brush, the manzanita and things in between, then you have a lot easier job of protecting your property.
Oh, exactly. Well, and how important it is, not only after you get insured, but making sure that you keep that property fire safe.
Yeah, and a
because
lot of
they
people
grow.
don't realize that insurance companies reserve the right to do inspection at any time with no notice.
Yeah.
It could be before the closing if you're buying a new home. It could be 4 years down the road. Somebody might just drive by and take pictures one day, and I get calls, every couple months. Hey, there's some creeper outside my house sitting in a car taking pictures. What's going on? Well, it's just a random inspection.
Right.
And they're looking to see if that tree has overgrown and is now touching the roof.
Yeah.
They want you to cut that back.
Oh, yeah.
They want to see that you haven't taken care of these bushes that are around the property or whatever it may be.
That's crazy. So, and kind of explaining the difference, we've kind of, talked about like the forest and why that's important, having the insurance. But something like Granville, Prescott Valley area and the subdivisions and everything, why it's still important to have that insurance coverage.
Yeah, and with those more structured developments, much less wildfire risk.
Right.
You can look on Google Street View and see 2 fire hydrants just by turning the camera view from left to right.
Right.
There's a fire hydrant everywhere. There's a fire station within 3 miles, and you've got nice sidewalks, and it's a very clean neighborhood with very low fire risk. But what about hailstorms?
Well, and I was going to kind of bring
That's
that up.
our
If you
go-to
didn't,
here.
if you hadn't said it, I was going to say it. Being, north central Arizona, I think Mayer is the exact center of Arizona.
Yeah, somewhere around like Cordis, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't make it like a tourist thing. Sorry, my marketing mind. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, why isn't there
I believe, I don't know, it's been maybe 10, 15 years, that there was some large developers who were interested in understanding if it was feasible to put in like an amusement park or something in that area. And they just didn't justify the traffic with I-17 and everything to justify. Most people are passing
I remember.
through, not stopping.
Yeah, I used to work in that area, and they kind of brought it up. At one point they're like, they're bringing Disneyland. I'm like, no one's bringing Disneyland to Cordis Lakes.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe a theme park or something like that. That's great. But no, I was even thinking why don't they just put find it like the exact center,
geocaching.
And put a big rock X. We have the Four Corners thing where people always take their pictures of, being at Four Corners.
Yeah.
Take a picture at the center.
The geographic center of the state.
Anyways. I forgot what we were talking about.
The hail.
Oh, yeah. But the importance of we being north central, that we have a lot of weather that a place like Phoenix doesn't. Flagstaff gets, feet of snow.
Yeah.
So people that want to be in the snow,
they're more than welcome to.
Prescott's one of those things where we can have a week where it's just kind of all over the place, but we get quite frequently hailstorms.
It was sleeting on me on the way over here,
Yeah.
which can quickly turn into hail.
Yes.
And it often does.
Yeah. No, it does very, very quickly. And all of a sudden it's,
Yeah.
which scares me because I'm in the Jeep and it's got the flat. I'm like, this is going to be bad if I catch.
Their Jeeps are like magnets for that.
Yeah. And I didn't know that before I bought it. I was like, I'm getting a Jeep. It's awesome. And then it was like a day later, I caught a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't deflect.
No. You need that bug shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we get a lot of houses that we're selling or buying that it is not unheard of or not surprising when they go, hey, it has hail damage.
It has hail damage. Yeah. It's an extremely common thing.
Yeah, just to the roof and everything like that. So the insurance that you provide would cover the replacement.
Yeah, so your standard insurance policy is based on the state of New York created a fire policy over 100 years ago.
Okay.
And it was called the New York Fire Policy. I think it's a 168-line New York Fire Policy, something like 1918. And based on that, all other insurance policies have evolved from this standard form.
Okay.
So it started off just being fire, because that's what you had in these major cities.
Well, and then there was like big fires in New York.
Yes, that took out London.
Yeah.
That took out New York. That took out these major cities. San Francisco, after they had the earthquake, it was the fire that decimated the city.
Right.
And so even Prescott.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had our
fire of
yeah.
1900. Yeah.
So you initially started with fire being the main risk, and they've added on to it. So now you have wind and hail, you have aircraft and riot and vehicles and vandalism and all these other things that have been added on over time. So you can get just a dwelling fire policy. And a lot of times when you get a policy on a cabin in the woods, it may be just for fire.
Okay.
That may be the easiest policy to get, especially if it's a landlord policy or something like that. There are stripped down, they call them dwelling fire policies. Then you can add other endorsements onto that to add those other coverages. Your standard homeowner's insurance policy, if you called me and you said, hey, I'm getting a homeowner's insurance policy quote today for a personal residence for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Prescott Valley.
Right.
You're getting an HO3. That's the homeowner's form 3.
Okay.
And that's going to cover all those things, wind and hail and all those important things that we're discussing. And so the hail is probably the next biggest one here. Actually, by claims, hail is our biggest.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't take out
but
the house and cause the large loss.
Right.
But so last year, July 11th is the date that will live in infamy. We had a hailstorm that came through.
Yeah.
And it started by the airport and it moved into both like Prescott Lakes, the Willow Lake area, and then over to Yavapai Hills.
Yeah. Diamond Valley, Yavapai Hills got hit
Destroyed.
hard. And there's a lot of, and why I bring that up is because there's, with that hailstorm that kind of came through, that was like the central location with the most houses.
Yeah.
The
Very dense.
Prescott Lakes, is next to Watson Lake and everything like that. So it kind of went over that way. But then Yavapai Hills and Diamond Valley got
these heavy residence areas. And so it was like every house was getting its roof replaced. And then any car that wasn't in the garage was damaged. And
Which
you
is
mentioned,
a lot.
a lot. You mentioned that sometimes we get weather that they don't see in Phoenix.
Right.
That same day, that same storm cell moved out over Phoenix and moved across the desert. And I had a house in Santan Valley that the hail did so much damage on their tile roof, it knocked the tiles off their house and the tiles destroyed their car.
Oh, wow. So the hail didn't destroy the car, but the tiles.
Tiles coming off the roof, sliding off, big concrete tiles, totaled the car.
Wow.
From a hailstorm.
Right. Well, it's always funny because it's like I always joke every single time that Phoenix gets, they don't get unheard of weather, but the news goes crazy if there's
the
rain,
haboob,
the snow, the sandstorms or something that we don't have to deal with here. That it's a different. We're up in the mountains. Mm-hmm. We're not in the desert, as Phoenix is or Tucson. So they get a lot of the sandstorms, and I've been in Phoenix when they've gotten their monsoons, and
it's a sight to behold.
It is. Yeah. I was living when I was at the police academy, I was living in a hotel, and I showed up, back, cause we had the weekends off, and came back that Monday, and building across the street had like a picnic table, like windows broke.
Well, wow.
Because it had just been so strong. And I was like, okay,
it's like a hurricane real quick.
I'll shut up now. So
we get a happy blend of all of that.
Yeah, just depending on the season.
Just a very unique risk profile.
Summers we get the heat, but it's not anything crazy. You know, it's well, we'll get into the hundreds, the low hundreds, but
well,
it feels like it's in the 90s.
New to the area, that we get our last snow around Easter.
Right.
Don't plant until Mother's Day because it's still going to freeze up until May. It could.
Right. Like today, there's a rainstorm coming through. And then tomorrow it'll be nice and
it'll be beautiful again.
Beautiful. So
and then you get up to like 4th of July, and we are a 4th of July city. With
yes.
The rodeo, the parade, just everything about Prescott screams 4th of July.
Yep.
You know, rest in peace, the water fights, all of it. And
I know.
I'm sorry, I had to.
I know
it hits the feels.
Kind of time out on that one real quick because I became a little bit older than you, but when I got to the age of starting to drive, like. Before then, it was like, the downtown water balloon fights, water gun fights that would happen in the downtown area.
You got 8 friends in the back of your pickup, and you drive down, and everybody's just super soaking each other. It's a blast.
And it's great. The time I got old enough to drive, to go do that with my friends, you know,
decapitated that program.
They stopped it because there's too many people that were getting crazy or overstepping or. You know, shooting somebody with a water gun that was not part of said activities, but it was one of those things. Like,
when you see a senior
downtown.
Citizen with a walker, don't hit him with a water balloon.
Right. So that's why
don't intentionally nail the cop.
Right. Like. So it'd be nice if they brought it back. But
so every year we get up to the 4th of July, and we've gone months without getting rain. So now we're in this real deep fire risk profile.
As soon as you get under contract, like I got one, under contract yesterday. Now we have a time frame to order the inspection, and the inspector will come in and check certain things.
It's one of the things they check is
important things. And so there's always going to be stuff on the inspection report, even if it's a brand new house. Yeah. I mean, there's always
their job
something.
Is to nitpick it.
The hose under the sink is looped left instead of right, and that some kind of code thing or whatever. So you have that conversation of like, hey, there's going to be things, but the big things that we need them to look at, the roof being one. Do they need
the roof is a big one.
Does it need to be replaced? Does it need to,
And with how often that damage happens, there are carriers in Arizona that if you have a common shingle roof and the roof is older than 20 years, they will not offer you insurance.
Wow.
Because they know there's been a hailstorm.
Right.
And that roof is damaged.
Right.
and any future damage would cause more damage to the house. Now all of a sudden you've got mold and heavy water leakage where you're at it.
And the coverage is going to have to... Yeah.
So as opposed to them willingly taking on this risk, if your roof is over 20 years old, there's a good chance you're going to pay a lot more on your insurance to find the carrier that will take you.
That's awesome, man.
It's not.
Well, no.
But it's good to know.
No, but it's important because, I mean, I was once a new home buyer, and as were you, and it's... You're more in the insurance thing. You don't think about those things of why insurance is an important thing. So, no, that's great, and that it's a thing, and that you have the ability to kind of go through the different carriers and find the best policy that's going to cover those things at the best price.
And a lot of times if you go online and you get a quote, it's just going to kind of default to the coverages that this online Skynet thinks that you should have.
Right.
And
I love that you said Skynet.
We're there. And so you don't really have the understanding of what the local risks are and how you can adjust your coverages. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is you can have separate deductibles on a home insurance policy. So you can say, I want a $500 deductible for wind, but maybe I want a $1,500 deductible for fire. So you can split your deductibles. For me, I say if my house burns to the ground, a $5,000 deductible isn't that big of a deal. Because $5,000 out of the cost of replacing a $350,000 home is a drop in the bucket. But if I have to replace a $12,000 roof, $5,000, and all of a sudden we're talking
it's not as much
40%. So you can change your deductibles depending on certain perils.
That's awesome.
And a lot of people don't realize that, especially if they're just going online and getting the quote.
Well, segueing into that, I'm going to put up your information and stuff here. But Manzanita Insurance, how can people get a hold of you?
www.manzanita-insurance.com. You got to include that dash.
We did this real quick. I have to add the fact because I got mad the other day.
Okay.
Because we talked about it, we were texting about it because I was going through this Rolling Stone article, and all of a sudden, a picture came up.
Your picture.
I was like, it looked really familiar, and I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. It looks almost identical to mine. Like I went through that whole process. Like I was giving somebody else credit. It was one of those times looking at a picture and going, that's really good.
Nice.
That's a really good. Hold up. That's my picture.
Yeah, I know this one.
I took that picture
of our beautiful downtown.
Like downtown area, and I clicked on the link. It didn't have Manzanita Insurance on it, but it had, beautiful picture and I clicked on it and it took me to your website.
That's awesome.
And so I was like, okay, then I was less mad because if you enjoy the pictures of Prescott on his website.
Yes. I was given some pictures to use for our website of local things.
Oh, I jumped at the chance when you're like, hey, I need some pictures. I'm like, there you go, man. What else you want? You're like, that's enough. So yes, website, that's going to be the best way to get quotes and stuff, especially moving to this area.
From our website, you can initiate a quote yourself. If you don't want to talk to anybody, you can start a quote yourself, and then it'll send me some information I can go through. One of the things that I really like about our area, our county is really good about digital permitting. And a lot of counties are not so forward as ours is, surprisingly. Yavapai County, I can type in almost any address and it'll show me if the roof was replaced 2 months ago. A lot of those permits are updated very regularly.
Wow.
So I can go through and see, hey, you are buying that old 1920s house in Prescott, but I can see clearly that in 2003, there was a full remodel that included the gas lines, the plumbing, and the electrical, and that a new electrical box was put in. So we've just checked all the boxes that I need to ask for the insurance. So if you want to go online and do a quote, you can do that. You can give me a call. You can shoot me an email on my website. You can even schedule like a Zoom conference if you want to just chat with me, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple different agents working there. So we kind of specialize in different things, but we make sure that we shop it with all of our carriers and find you the best coverage at the best price.
That's fantastic. Because, it's getting more into that. You're almost done with tax season because, again, you are accounting as well. Like, seriously.
I wear a lot of hats.
There's been so many times, like, it's become kind of a joke in my house of, like, what hasn't Adam done? Like, there's been so many things where, like, of course he's,
I'm like a
specialty in that.
Man.
But it's nice that two local boys such as ourselves. So, yes, you were looking at moving here, moving here, the importance
just
of
reviewing
insurance.
what you already have here.
Or you are already here and want to review that guy. Again, I'm going to put some information here and put my information.
information as well, because
Yes,
I
of
can't
course.
not plug
No,
myself.
it's part of why we're doing this.
Yeah. So, and then we're gonna have you back because we have some other things that we are involved with the Backyard Astronomer and why Prescott is awesome for dark sky community.
Dark skies are amazing.
So it's really important. That was my phone. That was my cue.
That was.
Anyways,
A lot of people move to Prescott because of our dark skies.
which is just one of those things that we have had numerous conversations of being born and raised here, and I've always thought the skies here were just normal, like everywhere, and it's not. And
I
why
remember
they're so
growing
important.
up sleeping on the trampoline. You know, take
Yeah.
the sleeping bag out to the
Oh, yeah.
trampoline on a summer night and watching satellites and things go by and watching the meteor showers and just loving our skies. And then you go somewhere like California.
Yeah.
And in most of California, you're not going to see half of those stars.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah, so it's just a weird thing what you can experience here in the Prescott area compared to other places.
Yeah.
And why people love it as much. So, yeah, we're going to be doing more things in regards to that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I was like, we'll call this part 1. Awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry, it kind of cut out there for video a little bit, but put some stuff in there to hopefully entertain everybody.
I know there was some good stuff here.
There's fantastic
I didn't
stuff.
see it,
Yeah.
but I know it was there.
Some great
I feel like
stuff.
a weather person
Yeah. No, it's good.
pointing to Duluth, but I can't see Duluth.
Is that an astronomy thing?
No, in Minnesota, it's just
Oh,
a
okay.
city. Yeah.
Sorry, it sounded like some kind of astronomy thing. So, thanks again. I'm gonna put your information right here at the end of it, and hopefully put a link to your backyard astronomy page.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So, thanks again. Make sure you contact him for all your
Any questions at all?
insurance stuff and hit the website. So, thanks again, everybody, and stay tuned for the next videos. And like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. Thanks.
Punch the buttons.
I wanted to do a new one. So again, thank you. And tuning in. No, don't want to say that.